For coming. Could we please stand for the national anthem of Trinidad and Tobago?
You can have your seats. Good afternoon, everyone. I would now like to invite Apostle Terence Honore to grace us with our opening prayer.
Please, may I invite you to stand? Let us bow our heads as we pray. Our gracious and eternal Father, God, in you we live and move and have our being. We thank you for health and strength. We thank you for this opportunity as we gather today in one mind for one purpose, with one faith in you. Thank you for the altar. Thank you for all the supporters today. And we give you all the praise for your goodness towards us, our families, and our nation. Bless this time as we gather together. May it be a memorable occasion for each and every one of us. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.
So I invite you to have your seats again. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Wahida Dean, and I will be your chairperson for this afternoon. I would just like to offer a warm welcome to each and every one of you joining us this afternoon. Those of you who are from the Parliament, from UWI, from the Gender Affairs Division, from the various NGOs, trade unions. Well, I am from NALIS, so I just would like to invite everyone to, enjoy the program that we have in store for us today. And we would begin with Mr. Huey Cadet, who is from the Gender Affairs Division, the head of the Men's Bureau. Yes, I would now welcome him to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I would be very brief. Let me, of course, recognize former member of the Senate and President Senate, Mr. Timothy Hamill-Smith, my good friend, as we work from our days in youth work, now in Trinidad. Other specially invited guests, of course, the guest of honor, who we are all here to celebrate his achievement, Dr. Jerome Tilok Singh. I want to I want to give very, very brief on behalf of the Gender Affairs Division. It is, of course, my pleasure to be here, and I've indicated that. Dr. Tilak Singh has been a foremost advocate on issues affecting men and boys and the need for society to celebrate male excellence. And through his work and the commemoration of International Men's Day, he has left a permanent mark not only on us here in Trinidad and Tobago, but right across the world. Dr. Tilak Singh's unwavering dedication to nation building is truly commendable, and he has demonstrated that consistently through the support of our programs in the Gender Affairs Division, including our recently launched Men's Bureau. One of Dr. Tilak Singh's greatest strengths lies in his ability to bring people together. He has a unique gift for fostering collaboration among diverse groups, uniting individuals and organizations to address complex issues that shape our society. His work serves as a bridge to connecting ideas, communities, and visions for a better future. This book, Emergence of the Caribbean Empire, is yet another example of his tireless effort to contribute to our intellectual landscape. I am sure that it will offer valuable insights and perspectives that will undoubtedly enrich our understanding of Caribbean cultures and the evolution and the role that it has played in our world. Dr. Tilak Singh, we thank you for your dedication, your vision, and your tireless pursuit of knowledge. Congratulations on this monumental achievement, and we eagerly look forward to the journey this book will take us on. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you and enjoy the rest of your proceedings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khaled, for those kind words. Emergence of the Caribbean Empire, that's why we are here this afternoon. And as per the program, we will have a book review. And for this, I would like to now invite Ms. Chanel Martin, who has been employed at the University of the West Indies for the past 22 years, and is presently the Secretary at the Department of History in the Faculty of Humanities and Education. She has a bachelor's degree in Communication Studies, minor in Psychology from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus, and she obtained a master's in International Business at Arthur Lockjack Global School of Business in 2022. Chanel enjoys improving her professional skills as she takes pride to serve people with excellence. Last year, she completed a certificate in public relations and is currently training to become a travel advisor. Chanel enjoys engaging in public speaking, voice acting, and planning small events. Her hobbies are traveling abroad, swimming, and learning to speak a foreign language. She would be reviewing Dr. Tilak Singh's book on behalf of Dr. Scott Timke, who was once her lecturer and who has unfortunately had to return to South Africa before today's event. So please, let us welcome Ms. Chanel Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chairperson. And as said before, I will be reviewing the book on behalf of Dr. Scott Timke. So he begins. Sure. Thank you all for gathering today to celebrate Jerome Tilak Singh's Emergence of the Caribbean Empire, Politics and Labor in Trinidad and Tobago, 1918 to 1976. This work seeks to fundamentally reshape our understanding of Trinidad and Tobago's political development by challenging the conventional 1956 watershed narrative. The dominant national historiography has long positioned 1956 with the People's National Movement's victory as the crucial turning point in Trinidad's political evolution. Tilak Singh convincingly demonstrates that the real foundation of party politics were established decades earlier through labor movements of the 1920s and 1930s. movements that reached the peak of their militant mobilization about a century after emancipation. Drawing on an extensive archival research, including the Labor Leader and the Port of Spain Gazette, Tiloksing makes three vital interventions. First, he illuminates the complex and often contradictory relationship between labor movements and middle-class politics. Early socialist politicians, while championing working rights, often adopted paternalistic approaches that limited genuine popular participation. This tension continues to reshape Trinidad and Tobago's political landscape. Second, Tiloksing provides unprecedented insight into crowd politics and mass meetings, reconstructing dynamics, interactions between politics and the public. His analysis of heckling and public discourse reveals sophisticated political engagement among working-class Trinidadians, challenging colonial narratives of political immaturity. Third, and perhaps most significantly, Tiloksing demonstrates how the Trinidad Working Men's Association transformation into the Trinidad Labour Party in 1934. Let me read that again. Third, and perhaps most significantly, Tiloksing demonstrates how the Trinidad Working Men's Association transformation into the Trinidad Labour Party in 1934 established a blueprint for future electoral politics by labor leaders, although perhaps at the cost of being co-opted into advancing the very colonial capitalist projects they initially protested against. The book makes a provocative argument about the persistence of autocracy post-independence. Tiloksing shows how prime ministerial power effectively replaced colonial authority after 1962, suggesting continuity rather than rupture with the colonial period. This challenges triumphalist narratives of decolonization and forces us to reconsider the nature of post-colonial democracy in the Caribbean, its meaning, who it's primarily intended to benefit, and the degree to which reform and concessions seek to quell labor. The book also offers crucial insights into how racial and class divisions, evident in early voting patterns, ultimately undermined labor unity in the 1950s and 1960s. This analysis helps explain the persistence of these divisions in contemporary Trinidad and Caribbean politics more broadly. For our field, Tiloksing's work represents a definitive capstone to 5 decades of scholarship examining labor movements and political development in Trinidad and Tobago. His meticulous archival research definitively establishes labor leaders, not middle-class politicians, as the primary architects of decolonization. This settles long-standing historiographical debates, barring new empirical evidence. However, the book findings are both vindicating and sobering. While labor movements were indeed more influential in shaping Trinidad and Tobago's political economy than previously acknowledged, Tiloksing reveals how labor leaders ultimately sought co-optation into existing power structures, believing they could wield authority more effectively from within. This strategic choice had implications for post-colonial governance, in which agitation was suppressed in favor of minor formal authority. The result is a masterful work that both validates labor's centrality to Trinidad and Tobago's political development while offering a clear-eyed assessment of labor leadership's complicated relationship with power. The book sets a new baseline for understanding Caribbean political development, demonstrating how labor movements simultaneously challenged and reproduced colonial power structures in their pursuit of influence. I invite you all to engage with this important contribution to our field, and I look forward to the scholarly discussions it will undoubtedly generate about how historians ought to approach and interpret the neoliberal era from 1976 onwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that review. And I think from that review, we all should, at least for me, I found it really interesting, and I think our audience members here would find it also a good reading, yes? At this point in time, we have entertainment again. So I think we were graced with the pleasure of listening to them earlier before we started. And here they are again to provide brief entertainment for us before we move on to our other guest speakers. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our TASA group. Thank you to the First Citizens Dragon Boy Tasso Group. I think we were all not only entertained by them personally, but also they definitely woke us all up this afternoon, yes? So now we move on to that part of the program where it says greetings. And to start us off, I would like to welcome Mr. Ozzy Warwick of the Joint Trade Union Movement, JTAM, and the MSJ. So welcome, Mr. Ozzy Warwick.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Ms. Wahida Dean. Dr. Tilak Singh brought together a number of dignitaries here this afternoon, so all protocols observed. I want to thank you for the opportunity to bring greetings here at this very important book launch. And when I listened to the review, well, it's by Dr. Scott Timke, but spoken by Ms. Chanel Martin, I realized that I had a lot to say to respond to it. But then I look at the program and I see greetings. I say, okay, it's not speeches, just greetings. So I want to, on behalf of the Joint Trade Union Movement, to thank and congratulate Dr. Tilak Singh, and may I dare say, my dear good friend and comrade. Sometimes he does say some things that may bring it into question, but after speaking to him and listening to the logic of his argument, he still remains a comrade. This book is timely. This book is so important because it is so easy for society, for people, for a country to forget the roots of its past. It is necessary to remind ourselves that this important project called an independent and free Trinidad and Tobago is rooted, grounded, built by labor, by ordinary men and women who believed in a different society, who believed that the oppression, the exploitation must not be their lot in life or the lot of generations to come. And so they fought for a free and independent Trinidad and Tobago. I didn't read the book as yet. I intend to. I hope to. But what I like about the book, and it is really something to speak to in terms of my comrade, that contribution to important Caribbean scholarship. But that contribution that helps us to zero in, and I like what I heard in the review, the centrality of labor to this incredible project called Caribbean freedom. And I want us to always remember that. What I can tell is that the book did not mix matters in terms of the contradictions, the dynamics that goes with any attempt to engage with power, especially power in a colonial construct. But what it does tell us is that those contradictions, those dynamics continued even after independence. Just reading the excerpts, I had to remind myself or look back and see that we're talking about 1946, 1955, 1951, and not 2024. Because I am sure that many of the challenges that we'll face in this journey towards a free and independent country, a lot of that still remains with us in our post-colonial, post-independent society. So as I close, because it's greetings, right? As I close, I want to leave everyone here with this. And I find it interesting, the venue, the Cabildo, part of empire, the terminology you use, and I did say to you, I can't wait to read to find out why you said Caribbean empire and not Caribbean civilization. So if you don't mind a good Marxist review of your book, I will engage in such. But I want to leave this with you all. Gathered here. We must never, ever stop thriving to build a better society. We must never accept mediocrity. We must never accept the status quo if that status quo reinforces inequality and injustice. In 2024, we have to continue to fight for justice. We have to continue to fight for equality. Those values must never evade us. The day we stop fighting is the day we die as a civilization. Thank you, Dr. Tiloxing, for this excellent piece of work and this piece of scholarship. I look forward to reading it, and may we continue to strive for an independent and truly free Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warwick, for those words. And we continue with Sati Gajula, representing OWTU. She's not here yet. Okay, so we have I would like to invite the representative from the National Archives, Avalon. No, she's not here yet. Okay, so we move on, and we have from the UWI, we have two history students. We have Tia Marie Toussaint and Faith Flavius, who would also bring their greetings. Yes, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. So I am Faith Flavius, and this is Tia Marie Toussaint, and we are part of the UE History Society. It's a society that encompasses students from the university. We try to target students from engineering, medicine, social sciences, and every faculty or degree that you can think of. And one of the aims of the society, and I'm going to incorporate it into the importance of this book, we try to bring forward to students the salience of history. And I think, and I say this a lot, that history is society today, and we don't understand the richness of it, how much we can create from it, how much we can benefit from it, and how much we can learn from it and move forward. So I have short greetings, not as great and marvelous as the last, but I really look forward to, seeing the content of this book, perhaps the women who are part of the labor movements that have not been traditionally highlighted in building this Caribbean empire, and yes, highlighting the salience of history in building us to where we are today, and reading this book to know how to move forward. So thank you.
I'll just like to add that I am yet again proud of Dr. Tiloxing for another great achievement, and I am elated and can't wait to read his book. So thank you, sir.
I would like to acknowledge that we have our Member of Parliament with us, Mr. Rudy Indar Singh, and I would like to invite him now to come forward and offer his greetings as well. Mr. Indar Singh.
Thank you very much, and pleasant good evening to the distinguished audience of ladies and gentlemen who are here this evening. And I really want to say that I was not carded to speak. I did not impose myself on Dr. Tilak Singh, but being a good politician, I was asked to bring some brief remarks. And as a politician, you must always be prepared to occupy the crease, whether it is the opening batsman or coming in as a night watchman. But more importantly here this evening, I want to say that indeed, being someone who was directly involved in trade unionism and had the privilege of working not through the rank and file, but I went into the All Trinidad Sugar and General Workers Trade Union as the Education and Research Officer, and then finally as the President General of the All Trinidad. It is always important for us not to underscore and undervalue the importance of the labor movement in shaping a modern Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, the Caribbean region. Sometimes I feel that we have lost that sense of history. We have lost that sense of direction in tying back or understanding where we are today in this country is as a result of the blood, sweat, and tears of those who were intimately involved in the labor movement from the 1930s up to where we are today in 2024. And indeed, I being a student of history over the years, and in my days at the University of the West Indies, I had the privilege of being exposed to the work, for example, of Dr. James Millett, Dr. Bridget Burton, Dr. Kusha Harak Singh, Dr. Kelvin Singh, well, he did not teach me, but the late Dr. Brinsley Samaru, and Dr. Sahadev Basdev, all of them from a historical point of view documented our rich history. And in this regard, we have not heard in recent times about their work. In fact, I would say that the last public appearance that the late Brinsley Samaru made was at the constituency office of Couva South, when I brought him to chair a Labor Day panel. And unfortunately, within, I think, 2 weeks of that event, he was recalled from this earthly existence. But I say this in the context of paying my sense of tribute, because I have not read the book itself, paying my sense of tribute that Dr. Jerome Tilak Singh is filling a great void that has been left in our historical arena as it relates to understanding the history of Trinidad and Tobago, and more so from a labor movement perspective. And I think that we all should give him a resounding round of applause for engaging in this scholarly work that has brought the emergence of the Caribbean Empire, politics and labor in Trinidad and Tobago between 1918 to 1976. And I think that based on where we are in 2024, and I heard in the review that we both spoke about prime ministerial power and where we are today. Indeed, the trade union movement must continue to play a role in the check and balance of those who are vested with political power in terms of checking their sense of abuse, if I should use that term. And I leave it at that. I pray that Almighty God will continue to bless you with more scholarly work that will continue not only to document the labor movement and its gains and its struggles, but as we continue to shape a better Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Endorsing, for those words of encouragement. I would now like to welcome Mr. Peter Burke of the Trinidad and Tobago Ex-Military Men's Association to bring his words of greeting.
A pleasant evening all courtesies extended. I bring greetings on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Military Armed Forces Veterans Association. To Mr. Tilaksing, we salute your effort to foster a more meaningful and significant awareness of the role and function of the trade union in the development of society. Though the military has never had trade union representation, nor is it ever allowed, through the years, the veterans have always been there, cheering along the people's discourses, gains, and emphasizing with any progressive environment. After all, we share in all the significant gains. In the march of time, one can see the service of ex-servicemen in all efforts and aspects of the society. Seeing that the time in which the book is couched, I make a simple reference to Mr. Captain Andrew Cipriani. At the outbreak of World War I, Cipriani joined the West India Regiment and was made captain. He had a close relationship with the soldiers. At the close of hostilities, he stated that as heroes, they deserved to return to a society that promoted the ideals that they had fought for, freedom and justice. The soldiers were now very much aware of their rights and privileges and had no intention of returning to live under the same conditions that they had fought, against which they had fought. They were, however, treated with disdain by the colonial authorities, leading to the revival of the Trinidad Working Men's Association. I heard a reference made by that earlier in the reviews of the book. Coming out of his organization, he managed to get a team together. And as such, the people united, and there was in 1919 Working Men's Associations and the Waterfront Association got together and had a strike. That strike was a fairly successful one. Coming out of that strike, the colony was never the same. Coming out of it, we had policy, adult franchise, later self-government, federation, and the federation rather. We also recognize the contributions of another trade union leader and comrade, Mr. Rafiq Shah. Ex-servicemen are always aware of what pertains in the society. They generally can't say much, but they could think little. The society continues to evolve. As it happens, the people who know big words would say now, as it happens in the macrocosm, it happens in the microcosm. Every individual effort that is made by each one of us serves to make Trinidad and Tobago a more meaningful, productive, and pleasant place. I would also like to salute Mr. T. Luxing for his Men's Day initiative, of which I was part of together with the Armed Forces veterans for the first time. It was a good one, and I hope that it would grow from point A to point B. As a matter of fact, I realized that Trinidad and Tobago, even though the genesis of the concept is Trinidad and Tobago, we are not as aware as we should be of it. Blessings, my brother. You have done some successful work. Continue. Pleasant day.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I have to say that I am really enjoying all the greetings that are coming from this diverse group of persons this afternoon, because not only are we learning, but before we even read the book, but we are learning so much from their own perspectives And to continue with that now, I would like to invite Ms. Sati Gajada from OWTU to bring her remarks. Ms. Gajada.
Good afternoon, everyone here this afternoon. All protocols observed. I just want to say that behalf of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union and our members, we want to thank Dr. Tilak Singh for all that he has brought to our membership and by bringing to even the general public about trade unionism, about what the working class has done and contributed to this country. He continues to be a beacon light as it pertains to bringing forward what a lot of people would like to leave behind. And so I just want to thank him again. Thank you, Dr. Tilak Singh, from our members and our general council members, and also our executive. I bring you greetings and good luck with your book.
And we have our final greeting coming from the NGO Christian Historical Society, and I welcome Apostle Terence Honoré to join us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all protocols observed. I'm indeed very happy to be here this afternoon to join in this historic occasion. Anything of history is my passion, and I share a like passion with this goodly gentleman, esteemed, I almost said colleague. I haven't aspired to the heights that he has, but certainly I do appreciate his contribution to the history of Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up in the oil belt. I grew up watching the marches through Marabella, the oil days, and I know the passion. But I also heard Mr. Indara Singh mention, just before he closed, about the importance of prayer. And so I just want to say, even as we move forward, let's remember there are people who are praying behind and praying us through as we continue to bless Dr. Jerome and his journey. And I know the book will have a significant part in the echelons of the history of Trinidad and Tobago. I look forward to reading it. I hope he has enough copies today so that we would all secure, and I've seen his work and I've seen his writings, and I'm encouraged by his contribution. Let us all continue to acknowledge his efforts as we go on in the march of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Apostle Honoré. So we are now at that point in the program where we are hearing from the man himself. So he is here as lecturer UWI. I said previously I know him because I work at NALIS. I'm a librarian there, and we have had our collaborations with his International Men's Day and World Day of the Boy Child. And I know for many of you, it's friend, colleague. And I would like to now welcome Dr. Jerome Tilak Singh so that he can bring forward his author's response. Let us welcome.
Thank you very much, Wahida, and good evening to everybody. I'm so overjoyed to see so many persons here today, and I really want to apologize for my friends who are standing. I think next time I'm having the launch, I might go to the National Stadium. I think it's the first time that a launch is being held at this venue, but I'm not sure, but I'm certainly sure there's a first time a launch is being held during a state of emergency. So we have some firsts here. But why did I decide to do this book? And one of the reasons is that this year, 2025, celebrates 100 years since Trinidad and Tobago had its first elections in 1925. And those elections in 1925 were restricted only people with property and income qualifications could vote and also go up as candidates. So I didn't just randomly decide that, you know what, I want to go and produce a book. And what happened is that whilst I was doing my PhD about 20 years ago, I started to come across documents that was showing me what labor went through. And I have been to the Public Records Office in England, I've been to archives in the United States, I've been to our national archives using outdated stuff. Port of Spain Gazette, Labor Leader, The People, The Clarion. And whilst working on these manuscripts, I came across some dispatches, telegrams, declassified information. And I'll tell you a bit about that just now. But whilst I was working on this book, I started to see a continuity. I started to see trends. And one of the trends that I saw was the way in which class, ethnicity, and even religion influence our voting rights, influence the decisions we made in the 20th century. Factors such as the popularity of a citizen, advertisements in the newspapers would determine who a voter voted for. And very interestingly, when I was doing this book, I realized that the women played a very important role in the trade union movement, even in elections. They couldn't vote, but they were out there, part of the audience, giving support. They were out there in the marches in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, but they were not at the forefront. Usually, as you know, we live in a patriarchal society, and when the newspaper have to report, they will report on the men who are the head. So women played a very important role. They didn't have the qualifications, but they still attended the meetings, they still did the heckling in the crowds. The women were disenfranchised, but they were a formidable presence throughout the 20th century. And those who did go on the election platform, their speeches were of a certain caliber, a quality that was as good as the men. This book has also dealt with the Second World War. And during this time, I found out that Trinidad and Tobago, because of its strategic location, was very vital in World War II. And as you know, we had oil. And as you know, other Caribbean countries like Jamaica had bauxite. So our region had a very important role in World War II. In fact, there were German submarines that were found in the Caribbean, and you know, all that had us focused on United States. Whilst I was researching on the 1950s and 60s, I came across many small political parties: the Caribbean National Labour Party, the Independent Labour Party, West Indian Independence Party, and sometimes these small parties try to form a coalition. But the coalition never worked because of personality differences. And very interestingly, about 2 days ago, I contacted Timothy Hamill-Smith. I said, you know, I came across a name, Raymond Hamill-Smith. He was the editor of the Clarion, and he also was involved in a socialist party, and he said, it's his father. I couldn't believe it was such a small world. You know, I thought it was a relative or so. So this makes the history even more interesting to know that somebody I know, father was involved in the 1950s and giving the colonial powers some pressure. On the issue of federation, I've found out that ethnicity played a very important role, and federation became a political football in which countries did not want to take the blame for its failure. Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados were all involved in this game to say, well, we didn't cause the failure. And again, just as the trade unions had their personality clashes, these larger islands also had their way they wanted to lobby. And let me tell you about these telegrams and dispatches. And it's something very relevant to 2025. Not just the British were spying on us, the Americans were spying on us. And I've come across documents in Washington that the American consul, the American embassy was sending back to Washington. They were reporting on speeches, political speeches, trade union activities, anything that looked radical, anything that looked subversive, they were documenting it and sending it back. And I'm going through these dispatches and these telegrams and I'm saying, but our leaders knew about this and they didn't say anything. And you know what is very sad? Even though we achieved independence, 1962, and we became a republic, they were still spying on us. I hope they're not spying on us right now, you know. I don't know, I'll have to talk to Ozzy and find out if in 2025 they are still spying on us. I don't know what we have. All we have is natural gas. I don't know. So I was so surprised. And you know what is so sad? In these documents that I found in Washington, you could see how they looked down on us. They spoke about us in a very condescending way. They talked about Badi Sagan Maraj. They talked about Rudolph Kapil. They talked about Eric Williams. You see, our heroes, they didn't care about them, you know. They were talking about them in a way that made these people look despicable. They were talking about C.L.R. James, Stephen Maharaj, and I was shocked. They were talking about the Sinanan brothers. They were talking about Tubali Raya Butler. They were saying these people were not patriotic and not loyal to Trinidad and Tobago. And I was so surprised, and I said, who are these people from abroad to judge us? Who are these people? And I'm wondering if they're still judging us. And I want to tell you all that in 2025, Labor still has a voice in the political realm. It is one of the strategies that we must ensure that trade unions are respected and never marginalized and alienated. Trade unions often become politically stigmatized. They become stereotyped. Trade unions might have to strengthen their ideological stance. But there's a need for trade unions to play a more radical, a different role maybe. And the future for political parties is that they cannot go to the electoral polls alone. They need the trade unions and they need the support of the NGOs. And what is most unfortunate, and I've seen it in the 20th century whilst I was doing this book, often when parties get into power, they push the trade unions aside. I don't know if that's happening in the 21st century, but in the 20th century, once the parties got into power, the trade unions were pushed aside or put into their back pocket. And I'll tell you something in recent history which I found. I came across in some of these telegrams and dispatches, they were talking about the ULF, the United Labour Front, with George Weeks and Rafik Shah and Basdev Pandey. And in one of these dispatches, they spoke about a meeting held on the 18th of February, 1975 in San Fernando. A telegram from the American embassy said that the speakers were very anti-government, anti-multinational, and anti-nationalistic. And they're reporting on George Weeks. And George Weeks is saying that the CIA is spying in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's very interesting because some of you all here would know about the ULF and some of your parents would know about the ULF. And it's very interesting to see how the past still continues to haunt us. And I'll tell you something, those dispatches and telegrams is what I see. But some of the documents that were destroyed would be even more interesting. I want to thank you all for coming today, and I just want to apologize in advance if we don't have enough refreshments. All right, because I'm really concerned that, everybody ced out. I invited a few extra people because I say, Trinis like to stay home, say they come in and they're not coming. So everybody came out. So I really hope that we have enough refreshments, and I want to apologize in advance. Thank you all.
Thank you for those remarks, and I It's always a pleasure to listen to you because we learn something new. And I think I would enjoy sitting in his history class. At this point, we have a presentation of tokens to be made. And I welcome back Dr. Tilak Singh. With the assistance of Mrs. Tilak Singh.
I just want to give small tokens to those who took part in the program. Chanel, who did the speech, Apostle Honoré, who did the prayer and brought greetings, Alicia, who will be doing the voter thanks, and Wahida, who did the chair. I just want to call Kilissa Barker, too, from the Parliamentary Museum.
So before we move on to the vote of thanks, we have our representative from the National Archives, and she would bring her greetings to us now.
See my cape is getting me in some trouble here. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm the superwoman with my cape. Sorry for being so late, but you all know the word entanglement, made infamous by a certain individual. I was entangled in some meetings this afternoon, but thought it fit to, if it even was the last bit of this ceremony, to come in here. Now, we know, I have known Jerome for over 20 years. When he was now starting off in his studies at the National Archives, coming in, very witty person, as you can see, his humor is still there. And he will always leave a little joke with us before he commences research at the archives. All right? Jerome, I've heard you talking about dispatches and newspapers, and I want to boast that maybe you got most of your information from the National Archives, right? Nice for you to spread the word, so now that you know what the dispatches are and the newspapers, please feel free to come in and see us. I want to tell you congratulations, Jerome. When I looked at your bio, it was so vast, I didn't realize that you had so many publications. You have done well, and you will continue to do well. And as I said, he is a product of the National Archives. We've taken some of that. He's a product of National Archives, and feel free, as I said, to come in, and Jerome, again, congratulations, and all the best from this year on and until. Okay.
We now come to our vote of thanks, and we have Ms. Alicia Roberts, who is a PhD student at the Institute of Gender and Development Studies at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. Ms. Roberts has a BA and MA in history and was formerly employed as a fleet supervisor at TSTT. She is a trained radio and television announcer and amateur photographer. Ms. Roberts was a public relations officer and a dancer with the Atopa Dance Company in San Fernando, and was the first female president of the Consolidated Telephones Credit Union in San Fernando. a former executive officer of the Communication Workers Union. Her field of research focuses on women, gender, and trade unionism. Her goal through her research is to empower more women to take up the mantle of leadership in the trade union movement. Let us all welcome Ms. Roberts.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we draw this memorable book launch event to a close, it is my great honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee and especially my esteemed supervisor, Dr. Jerome Tiloxing. First and foremost, I extend a heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed author, Dr. Jerome Tiloxing, and for sharing your latest work with the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, the world. Your creativity and your dedication to recording the history of Trinidad and Tobago is a tremendous achievement. And for a student of history, we need to know our past as a people to move forward. And I especially love the fact that Dr. Tiloxing is chronicling the history of the labor movement, the history of the working class that we seem to forget that we are a part of. A special thank you to our distinguished guests and speakers. Your insightful remarks have enriched this event and provided us with valuable perspectives. We would like to thank Ms. Wahida Dean for being a very lovely chairperson, Mr. Huey Cadet for bringing greetings from Gender Affairs, Chanel, nice to see you again, and to do the book review on behalf of Dr. Timke. And there's one thing I remembered that he said. Yes, Dr. Tiloxing, you are contributing to 5 decades of scholarship. And remember also Caribbean political development. Thank you so much to the effervescent, tough Ozzie Warwick. Ozzie, I know this was not your forum. Otherwise, you would have been on for about 10 minutes or even more. But Ozzie, as always, with your Marxist perspective, you let us think and understand where we are coming from. And that is what we need to remember as Trinbagonians. We'd also like to thank our guest speakers, Mr. Rudy Indarising. Am I giving the MP a hint? I said Dr. Indarising, but it's nice to see you, comrade. Comrade Sati Gajda Innes, thank you so much for bringing greetings from OWTU. We must also thank as well Apostle Honoré for bringing greetings, as well as, yes, Mr. Peter Burke, yes, from our military armed forces. And I definitely cannot forget the entertainment. First Citizens Dragon Boys Tassa Group. Now, we had to remember where we were. Otherwise, But we are in hallowed ground, the Parliamentary Museum, and I'd also like to thank the staff of the Parliamentary Museum for allowing us to come within these hallowed walls, which for some of us, like myself, is a first-time event But please, ladies and gentlemen, do not make it your last visit. Come and avail yourself again about the history of Trinidad and Tobago. A big thank you to the technical support team. Your professionalism and attention to detail have greatly contributed to the overall experience. To the UE history students, Flavia and Tia Marie, thank you for your speech and letting us know about the salience importance of history. Remember your words. You are the future of tomorrow. As I myself have taken on the task of recording the history of women in the trade union movement, and this gentleman to my right is the one who embarked me on that path. So you have some shoulders to stand on. And I heard this afternoon some literary and history giants' name being called by Mr. Indar Singh, Professor Brereton, Professor Samaru, Dr. Kusha Harak Singh. These are history giants. And just like the trade union movement and the people who started the trade union movement, ladies and gentlemen, these are our heroes, and they should not be forgotten. In conclusion, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for being here this afternoon. And to you, Dr. Tilak Singh, and to your lovely wife, this is what I leave. Thank you means gratitude and appreciation. Thank you means I see you, I value you, I appreciate your contribution to the society of Trinidad and Tobago. Do not stop. The founder of International Men's Day, and he's in Google, ladies and gentlemen. If you Google it, you will find him. Yes. So you have done so much. God is with you, and the best is yet to come. So to everyone who contributed in some form or fashion to this afternoon's proceedings, thank you and return safely to your homes.
Thank you very much for those words. While we are here to celebrate the launch of his book, Emergence of the Caribbean Empire, which we all can, see in front of us here, Jerome would have written a lot of other articles in terms of his work with World Day of the Boy Child, where he encourages and, speaks towards what is required for those boys. And a lot of those information is available via online, via various databases. And I have to put in a plug for NALIS because, through our EBSCO host databases, we do have a lot of those articles. It's by the hundreds in terms of what he would have written both for the World Day of the Boy Child together with International Men's Day. So as we are celebrating the good gentleman with his work, I just wanted to let everybody else be aware that not only is it in the historical field, but also in terms of the work associated with both International Men's Day and World Day of the Boy Child. So with that, I would invite everyone now to partake in refreshments, which is at the, through the doorway there at the back. So thank you all for being here. I hope you all had an enjoyable afternoon, and I look forward to meeting all of you. Take care. All the best.